I've already been there once this week. I want to go back. Right. Welcome. Let's see. The question you asked was, why aren't more companies doing this? I think to some degree it just takes time, and the metrics we actually see now are rising a lot. It's definitely looking hockey stick in terms of that growth curve, right? Our best metric is Glassfrog, which is our software tool for supporting Holacracy. We look at the number of companies that are subscribing to Glassfrog, and that number has been just climbing up and up and up. Last I checked, it was over 400 organizations. Now, I'm sure some of those are just accounts people created to play around with or whatever, but I think a good portion of those represent companies that are at least trying to do Holacracy, and some portion of them doing it. And that's actually not so bad, because if you look 2 years ago, it was 50. So I mean, there's a definite, not even 50. I mean, there's a significant growth curve there. Why isn't it faster? Things take time. I think I shared a quote in the training this morning. It was, why is the caterpillar wrapped in a cocoon during its transformation? So the other caterpillars don't hear it scream. Change hurts.
Well, true.
It was a good quote. This is hard. It's really hard. It's a huge shift, and it takes a commitment, like you said, all in. I think that's true. And that takes some kind of pain or something, some kind of aspiration, something. And I know from my own experience, it's pretty easy to say intellectually, I want something to be different, but to not want to actually do the hard work of getting it, right? I did that for years with like my diet and exercise. I would think about how I wanted it to be different, but when it came time to actually make choices, that was another matter. And then I got a little more committed to that, and I really wanted to change something, but then you got to learn how. You have habits to unlearn and to replace with new habits, and that's hard too. And I've actually started tackling it recently, thanks to one of our other clients, Precision Nutrition, which runs a program to teach you how to change your habits.
But the next phase, GTD Holacracy.
Maybe if you want to focus on that. But it is a habit change thing, and I think that goes deep. It's one thing to change your ideas, that's hard enough, but to change habits, it's hard to learn new habits. It's harder still to unlearn habits. It's really hard to take habits that have served you well enough. They got you to be a successful executive, whatever, and to really replace those. And I think that takes the commitment, and it takes the all-in. It takes the willingness to go through the pain of the change, to do the hard work of getting clarity. I think that's one of the reasons Holacracy is so hard. It forces you to get clarity. And getting clarity is often uncomfortable. It's much easier to leave things in a state of fuzziness. It's much, much easier. So I think that is spreading. I think we're seeing more awareness that there are other ways to run organizations. When I started my software company, I didn't even know there was a choice. I just went with a top-down management hierarchy. And I think today now people are thinking there is a choice, much more so than I've ever seen before. We've got a book on Holacracy coming out June 2nd. The official book will be published. It's backed by a really big publisher who's putting a really, really nice marketing push behind it, which is great. So we're hoping that'll reach whole nother level. David wrote the foreword. So lots of stuff shifting.
Cool. Can we do a few questions maybe?
Yeah, sure.
If anyone has. I don't know. I know it. Questions? There's nothing that nobody knows.
I've got a question over here. You told us about how it is all in or nothing kind of situation. I work in quite a large company, and it's quite reluctant to change. Are there any ways that you could experiment with some concepts or in some departments with this kind of methodology?
Yeah, I think so. I can give a few options. So you can go all in, even if your company doesn't, and do the best you can with that. Now that doesn't mean you can fully practice Holacracy in your whole company, but you can at least really absorb what are the lessons of this model, what principles can I apply. I've actually got a whole chapter in the book specifically about that written for folks like that. I submitted my book without that, and my publisher rejected it and said, you've got to add a chapter on what people can do if they're in a big company and they can't adopt this across the whole which I resisted immensely, because in my mind I want it to be the pure, complete everything or nothing. But So I reluctantly posted to my Facebook group and said, all right, I have to write this. What can I do? And people just started flooding in with all these things that they were already doing, to apply different principles in their lives that were transformative. Great, I just stole from all their ideas and wrote a chapter. It was excellent. So I think there is a lot you can do. One of the things you could work to doing is going all in your department or your team. If you've got enough authority to say, I'm going to run my team differently, even in the rest of the company. That's happening in a team in the European Commission, which is about the biggest bureaucracy, I think, around these parts, right? And you've got, though, a little team that is doing their best to run with Holacracy in the midst of that storm. I think that's possible. Do what you can.
Could the GFK and Sanoma people raise their hand because they are doing that? So ask them as well. They're doing with a team, right? Holacracy in a big company, so ask each other.
We do it as well.
Cool. And this one as well. From which company?
Oerlikon.
German company. Cool.
Swiss.
Oh, Swiss. German speaking.
Yeah, do you think that
German speaking.
in the near future you will see a company that's really big, maybe like yours, but like a couple of thousands of people that transforms to Holacracy completely?
We have already seen Zappos, which is a pretty famous company in the US. They're 1,500 employees, and they are all in, top to bottom, completely running with Holacracy, or at least they're...
Did they grow into that number with Holacracy? Or
No, they adopted from 1,500 conventional management structure to Holacracy, which is a huge change.
How much time did that take?
They're still in the midst of it. They're somewhere around 80% rolled out right now. And they should be done by the actually by the end of this month. Wow, almost done. Or early next year, soon. It was a multi-year journey to get there. And actually, I think David's got it right in the forward to the Holacracy book. He said from the beginning he knew this was a 5-year deal. And I think he's right. This is not it's like, how long would it take you to master the art of being a really good, empowering, conscious leader within a conventional management hierarchy? Right, to really master that game, that system, and that's not a quick thing, and neither is it with Holacracy. This is a complete shift. That's not to say you can't do something with it real quick. You can, and you can learn and you can practice. You don't get to be a master martial artist by reading books. You get to do it by practicing and moving and doing it. The same is true with this, but it's a many-year journey to get great at it.
Last two then, you and you.
Yeah, we're a pretty small young startup, only 3 employees, 300. So is there sort of a minimum size you need to do Holacracy? And what is the best way to not have to change in the future, but just do it from the start on right?
Yeah, I'd say that the practical minimum I've seen is 3. You can do it with 2 maybe, but it feels really weird. Kind of silly almost. But, actually, 3 is really practical. It works great. And if you do it from that level and grow with it, it's going to be so much easier than transforming from another power structure to Holacracy. So start early, absolutely. Get whatever learning you can, because there's a lot of ways to do this poorly and not realize it. So absorb everything you can. Watch what these guys do if you can. Whoever can help. Get whatever help you get.
Diedrich can help.
Yeah. Oh, did it?
I was just saying, Diedrich can help you.
Oh yeah, definitely. Diedrich, one of our licensees, absolutely. Yeah, here.
So on the other side, if there would be another GE, Jack Welch, tomorrow, and he would accept and wanting to implement Holacracy tomorrow, is Glassrock ready for 300,000+ employee company?
Of course, I'm going to say there is only one answer to that question.
Is that based on present data?
Zappos with 1,500 is the biggest one.
Yeah.
How is it 20,000?
Yeah, well, Zappos is a subsidiary of Amazon, wholly owned public companies. So Zappos put us through the most rigorous security audit I've ever seen, and I've seen some rigorous ones. They're cool with it. So I'd say yes, but of course there's more we're going to need to do. We will find new challenges. We will run into obstacles that we just don't know about and don't anticipate. And we've got a really awesome software team, so I'm sure we'll work together.
Thanks, Brian.
Cool, thanks guys.